what I don't have, I can actually compensate through courage. So the next slide will show you the big favor I'm asking. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this is what I need to ask. Well, I'm going to make my speech. Can you please, if I raise my left arm, can you indulge me please by clapping? Can you do that? Okay, again. Can you do it? Okay. So if I raise my right arm, can you please shout hooray? Hooray! Yeah. So hooray lang ha. If I raise both arms, can you raise your right arm and say bravo? Bravo! Yeah. Can you do the post lunch thing? Okay, raise your right arm and say bravo. Bravo! Yeah. Isa lang, right? Okay. Pag nagkamali daw, walang back. And then if I get, emotional, I bang the podium, can you please rise, clap, and shout, we believe you? Can you try that? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for supporting my absurd ambition. You give me hope because I'm taking that away from you. I appreciate the fact that you're so cooperative. And you make me realize how blessed I am. There is hope in business continuity with a captured audience because you have no choice but to follow my instructions. So thank you. I hope you're warmed up. It's now time to introduce the three speakers. They will talk about the same topic divided into three parts. For this topic, we have invited the three gentlemen from Globe who will try to answer this very critical question in times of disaster: how far will technology serve you? First, he's the head of the IT consulting team of the IT-enabled services group of Globe Business, the corporate arm of Globe Telecom. The IT consulting team scopes the ICT requirements of enterprise customers and designs and presents the IT solution that meets the requirements. Our first speaker is the head of the IT consulting team, IT-enabled services group for Globe Business, Mr. Gilbert Vertusio. Mali yung pangalan na kalabas. But believe me, I got it correct here. Yan. Hindi si Mark yan. Okay? Parang tama yung nasa screen ko. Next! Our next speaker is the Senior Product Manager for International Data Services of Globe Telecom. He is currently responsible for defining the product strategy and roadmap of international data service in collaboration with cross-functional teams such as engineering, operations, sales, and marketing. He defines, designs, and executes plans for Globe's international network, accommodating international data, voice, and internet traffic. Our next speaker is Sam Mervyn Dichosa. We got that right. Apologies to Sir Gilbert. And our third speaker, who will round it up, is the Enterprise Product Management Head for Mobility and Fixed Voice. He oversees the end-to-end product lifecycle of the portfolio, which includes mobile voice, SMS, mobile data services, VAS platforms, fixed voice, nomadic broadband, and unified communications. His team is responsible and accountable for the portfolio's P&L, new product development, and execution of business strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, our third speaker is the head of the Enterprise Product Management, Mobility, and Fixed Voice, Sir Louis Villanueva. Our first speaker, Sir Gilbert Vertusio.
Good afternoon. Wow, the lunch must be great. Ano eh, very few siguro either that or the icebreaker actually really warmed you up. So I'm Gilbert Vertusio. I head IT consulting and commercial management. So basically, it's the pre-sales group of what we call the IT-enabled services group. So the non-core telco services are with my team, are with our group. Okay. So the outline of this topic is we will start first with what Globe has been known for, which is communications technology, and what scenarios are threatening us. So we will go through this fairly quickly. And given that, well, in my case, I was, for several years, I was the BCM coordinator of the business group in Globe. So as you will find out later, or as you might know, Globe is the first telco that has business continuity management system certification for the entire organization of Globe. So it's not just a part of Globe, but it's the entire organization of Globe and its products and services. So we're really committed in providing and continuing to serve our customers even in times of disaster and other problems. And to make the services of Globe, just to give you an idea of how our products and services can be used in a disaster scenario, instead of just describing what the products are, I will tell you a particular scenario and then how our products and services are applied in that scenario. So it makes it more real for everybody. So are we good with that? Okay. So the nice thing of the communications technology today is that there are so many ways for us to communicate. So you have your traditional landline, you have your mobile Wi-Fi, you have your cell phones. With respect to connectivity, you'll have the ubiquitous Ethernet cable, which is the blue one there on the right. The pointer does not work in a very bright screen like this. And the one on the left are fiber optic cables. As a trivia, if you feel, because fiber optic cables carry a lot of data, it's capable of carrying a lot of data, and it's prevalent everywhere. So there are two ways that we install fiber optic cables. One is typically underground. The other is what we call an aerial installation. So should there be a misfortune, like there's a typhoon and these aerial cables are brought down, my advice is please do not, if you see that, because obviously it's made of glass, so it doesn't look like copper cable. So if you encounter these, please do not look into the cable because it might blind you. According to my doctor friends, there's no safe level of radiation for laser technology that is used to power the light here. Although, who has seen yung lamp that has fiber optic cables, yung umiilaw sa dulo? So those are very simple versions of fiber optic cables. The cables that telco uses are much more of a higher quality and they use higher powered optics. So very strong laser radiation yung ginagamit namin. Please do not look into this. And then, one of the more significant things today is the increase in processing power. So who can tell me what the processor, the one on top is? The one with a lot of legs. Para siyang gagamba. Para siyang centipede, no? Okay? So, trivia, I'm a trivial person. I like to bring people back because I'm relatively old. So, the one on top is the 8088. So, this is the processor used in the IBM PC XTs. When it came out, the first personal computer of IBM used this processor. I actually have when I was growing up, I had an Apple II Plus, so my processor also looked like that, but it was another brand. Now, you have the Core series from Intel. Both chips are used by Intel. So the new one is the Core i7, which is really a lot of power for these processors can process information faster than the largest computers like in the 70s or 80s. So that's how much power you have at your fingertips. And because of this, a lot of work or capabilities already being built on software because we have the horsepower to do it today. Okay. So from a organizational perspective, these are the things that you have to watch out for. So parang I'm digressing a bit. So in any organization, these are the three things that you have to take care of. So first is your people, of course. My first lesson in business continuity is that the first role of business continuity is human life. So, kasi ano yun game, parang kanina, game over yun If somebody dies, game over. Only God can take them back, bring them back to life. Okay? The next is technology. You have to also protect your technology. Kasi people, because of the way things are running today, we are more immersed in technology. Like my children, they play with their iPads. Actually, nobody uses the landline anymore at home except me and my wife. Everybody's on social media now. They want to communicate over Facebook. Diba? So, heavier reliance natin. It's not a bad thing. You just have to be aware of that. You have to protect these things. And in any organization, you have to protect the site where you work. This is particularly true for organizations like call centers. It is very important kasi pag nag-down yung site, kuwari na baha or there's a major brownout, your agents cannot work. So that's a problem. And call centers, they rely on their agent being productive for them to get paid. Okay. Again, a small recap. We all know this. So these are some of the disasters that the Filipinos face. Actually, regardless, the human race actually face. The first is the earthquake. So this is the very famous July 18, 1990 earthquake. I was still in my first job at that time. I was fortunate that I was at the basement of the Meralco Center building in Ortigas. So I did not feel. But some of my office mates were on the 11th floor, so they felt the very strong earthquake. You can just imagine how strong the swing was. This is the Hyatt Hotel in Baguio that folded on itself and killed a lot of people. There's still, it's still, how would I say it, vacant today. Nobody goes there. Kasi minumulto. And the more recent one, after the Bohol earthquake, there were some studies that were made. The PhilVolts came out with a study wherein what would happen if there was a magnitude 7.5 earthquake in Cebu. So you'll notice there's a good deal of the island in red. So ibig sabihin on the highest level of destruction could happen. And even in Manila, they did a similar scenario. They looked at a similar scenario. We just have to be careful. Earthquakes are a part of life in this part of the world. So this just shows that we have to be prepared for that. And then we are talking about floods. This is Ondoy. And then this is a shot of the Typhoon Yolanda. So the first is the typhoons can bring a lot of water, like the recent one in Mario. Actually, I was looking there were some pictures showing floods, supposedly waist-deep floods. I cannot find a picture that has waist-deep floods, probably because the people who were in waist-deep floods did not bother to take pictures of their situation anymore. What I did see were pictures with knee-deep floods. Yun, meron pa silang time to take pictures of the flood. Pero yung mga waist-deep, hindi na sila namang problema kasi taas na ng bahay. Of course, the pandemic scare, and with the first Ebola case coming into the US, so it's actually very challenging to control the spread of disease because in the jet age, if you get sick and you're not detected, you can actually carry your disease across very quickly. So the H1N1 was the most recent one for us. Fire is man-made. So the first one were all natural. So man-made fire, of course, power outage, brownouts. That could be caused by fire or some damage to transmission equipment. And then, from an IT perspective, you have the famous blue screen of death. Hopefully, it happens less now with Windows 7 and Windows 8. And of course, hacking, which is becoming more, well, the hackers are becoming more intelligent now. So, I believe that all of the organizations here, they've been steadily using more and more technology for their business. And for good reason. Because it helps them they become more efficient, they become more responsive to the customer needs. Diba? They can come out with the services at a lower price point and yet still provide the same level of service. But as with anything that you have dependence on or you've come to rely on, you have to ask what will happen if we lose these services, these technologies. So these are just some guide questions to help you out in assessing it. So actually, one of the simplest ways if you think that hacking is a very high-tech thing, there's some ways to compromise the security of your IT infrastructure. You'd be surprised how low-tech they can be. It can be as simple as somebody walking into the server room and doing something bad. Diba? Kasi minsan hindi nakalock yung pinto. Walang password yung console. Diba? So you have to, first of all, for somebody to make some bad thing on your IT equipment, you have to secure them both physically and logically. Diba? The second is your computer hardware, your IT infrastructure, is it built for resiliency? There are a lot of technologies today that allow for what is called high availability. At the minimum, your servers can have multiple power supplies. And there are technologies like virtualization that allow you to distribute computing power across multiple machines. And even your software, like your database software, can do clustering. Diba? Basically, kumbaga, the principle is you don't put all of your eggs in the same basket, in one basket. And this is available today. Actually, itong picture na to, there are what is called yung NAS, Network Attached Storage, yung pambahay. Meron na sila multiple slots for your drive. Cost around maybe 10 to 15,000 pesos. Pero naka-RAID na yung drive. So ibig sabihin nun, if you lose one drive, you don't lose your data. You don't cry and say, oh my God, I lost all of my pictures, all of my videos. Okay? And I'm still guilty of this. I don't back up my critical data regularly. I actually had the unfortunate experience of my laptop being stolen. And, well, fortunate for me, I did a backup prior to that, but I think the backup was around a month old. So I lost that 1 month after that, the data. And this is something that we should be aware of, especially with a lot of laptops. Unfortunately, the laptops aren't getting any sturdier. I don't know your experience, but I've been using laptops for a while, and the laptops today are not as sturdy as they were before. I don't know why. I don't know. I would guess probably their detail into the way that they make this, it might be less, or because of the volume, malas ko lang. So, okay. So this is my first discussion of a plan. So do you have a disaster recovery plan? Ang ibig sabihin lang po nito is that disaster recovery plan is more for the IT, your IT infrastructure. Do you have one in place? How? Okay. So that is the first question. The second question probably is a harder one to answer. Have you tested it? Kasi having a plan and using the plan are two different things. Kasi minsan nangyayari, you write the plan, you do a workshop, you put everybody in the same room, diba? Everybody, you keep them there for a couple of days and come up with a plan. And then the thing that happens next is the manual is put on a shelf and gathers dust. Diba? And as was said earlier, repeatedly by the previous speakers, you have to test it. Kasi if you don't test it, it's like riding a bike. it doesn't become automatic eh. And on the automatic nature of what you do, you can only get that if you do it, if you exercise it. Yun yung term in business continuity. Siyempre, if you test it, you'll see that there are certain issues, then you can update it. Diba? Now, my last question is, do you have a business continuity plan? Some people will probably ask, isn't disaster recovery and business continuity the same? My answer is no. Kasi normally, and this is a very simple explanation, ang disaster recovery, remember, is for your IT only, generally IT. I-recover yung application. So, okay, na-recover na yung application. Let's say there was a disaster. Nag-down yung data center mo. Worry na somebody burned it to the ground. Sige, nag-recover ka sa alternate site ninyo. What will your people do to access that? Do your people actually know what they're going to do to access your applications on the alternate site? Yung bringing up the alternate site is your disaster recovery plan. What your people will do to be able to continue working, to do their functions, is the business continuity plan. So yung so to describe it, probably the disaster recovery plan is one of your pillars to support your business continuity plan. Ang business continuity, kasi disaster recovery more focuses on technology, recovering the technology. Business continuity recovers functions. Diba? Nangyayari lang, it just so happens that functions, business functions that lend itself to be easily recovered are IT enabled. It's just that. Okay? So that's this thing. So these questions you can put them to mind, you can digest them. So while I continue. Okay. So having said that, so di ba, nadi-disrupt ng disasters ang technology. But there's still, depending on the extent of the damage that a disaster causes, there's still ways. So long as you have there are ways for you to still use technology during disasters. So the first is, as I said earlier, what is the first purpose of business continuity? It is the preservation of human life. So important, particularly with a disaster or an emergency, is what is called the emergency response. This means making sure that all of your employees, all of your people are safe. Kasi nga wala nang bawian yan when somebody dies. It becomes really messy. And then after that, once everybody settled down, everybody's safe and sound, because if your mind will not work very well if you're worrying about your family members, diba? Once you've taken care of the emergency response, people will settle down and they can focus on recovering the business. So that's the second use of technology. So, as I said, since I will tell a story. That's the easiest way. I will tell a story of a disaster which actually you could relate because it happened like recently in Cebu, and even in Manila. And then I will describe how some of our products and services can be used to address concerns that are brought up by a disaster. So, are we still okay? So this is I like this part. I like telling stories kasi. Okay. So a typhoon is coming. So heavy rains are expected. As a precaution, so nagsisimula na yung ulan, classes at all levels were suspended. Unfortunately for everybody else, you have to work. Unfortunately, there was flood. As I said, I wanted to get a picture of some waist-deep flood. I was searching through I was Googling. I got reports that there were some areas in Cebu that were flooded to waist-deep. Unfortunately, I can't get any pictures. Probably nga because people were too busy trying to preserve themselves than taking pictures. So, knee-deep lang inaabutan ko. Ito, mga libreng sakay. So, the local government brought out their trucks and helped the stranded passengers. And because of this, syempre, di ba, why would you still go to the office? If you get to reach the office, you might not be able to go home because the way to and from the office might be flooded already. Okay, we go to the first scenario. Diba? So, from a internal perspective, you need to disseminate information to your employees. That's the first. So, for example, if you want to disseminate information about the typhoon before it actually arrives so that people can get prepared. Because nothing beats preparation. Diba? Kesa reactive, the preparation is proactive. And then when the disaster happens, when the storm is happening, you would want to know, you want to account for your employees. Whether they're okay or not, do they need help? Lumikas po ba sila? Did they move to an evacuation center? Now, for those who are stranded, you could, syempre, if you know that they have issues, then you can coordinate. You need to coordinate how you can help them, rescue them, or move them to another location. And then for customers, for your customers, you can inform them that some of your services could be disrupted because of this typhoon. Diba? So how can you do this? So one of the easiest ways is to send text messages. The problem kasi with calling, kasi the traditional way for business continuity to communicate, to disseminate information in an organization is what is called a call tree. How does that work? From a call tree perspective, pare ako, I'm at the top of the tree. I have 3 to 4 people assigned to me. I will call the 3 to 4 people, and then the 3 to 4 people will have 3 to 4 more people under them. Diba? You can just imagine how long it would take you if you're 100 strong or 200 strong organization. Diba? So, one is you can use an automated text machine. Yung may GSM modem and then you connect to a server. The problem is the throughput of these modems, they're not really very fast. So, if you're going to communicate to your employees, baka pwede pa eh. If you're talking about thousands of your customers, ibang usapan yon. So, Text Connect is actually a platform. So, how does it work? So, let's say, ganyan, may baha. There's flood. So, your company, through a web interface, you could actually send a message to our server. And what our server will do is, it can send information to your customers, or it can also disseminate information to your employees. So you can ask them to update, but because Text Connect can actually work two-way, hindi lang siya going out, you can also reply to it. Advisories and other information. Just to give you an idea, the school of my children in Manila, they're subscribed to this, and they use it for informing the parents when there's a storm. Normally, it's more commonly used for storm advisories about class suspensions, but they can also use it for announcements within the school, like if there's some activity. And this can be easily extended for within your organization or your customers. So that's how Text Connect works. Okay. So what is the next challenge? The next challenge is, which companies here or which of you have service vehicles in your organization? Your company vehicles, trucks, pickups, vans. Diba? Siyempre, it doesn't mean that there's a storm na padating pa lang, you stop your work na. Unless it's really bad, of course. So some of your vehicles are out before the storm arrived. Siyempre, when the storm hit, everything went south quickly. So you need to know where these vehicles are. Diba? Kung kuwari, hindi nakasagot na naglobat na yung driver, the one who was actually driving the vehicle, how will you know where they are? So one of the possible solutions that we could use is what is called fleet management. So it's part of our M2M solutions. What happens here is that a device is installed in the vehicle. and it uses GPS to track the vehicle. So we will know, and it's overlaid on a Google map so that you will know where their last position is. So it tracks the vehicle. So now, this happened in Yolanda. Since the impact of the storms was so bad that any telco, for that matter, there was no communications period. Number one, because there's no power, there's no commercial power. But number two, the cell sites were down. As in, the towers were down, the equipment was damaged. As I will not preempt Louis' presentation later, but he will show you a map of what happened to us, to our network when Yolanda happened. So it basically wiped us out, literally. So how can you establish communication? So, syempre, the surest way to have communications is if your communications infrastructure is really way up, as in satellites. So Globe now offers satellite phone service. So unless somebody shoots down the satellite, you'll always have coverage. So that's the nice thing about it. And the nice thing about the satellite phones now, they're a lot smaller. They look nicer now. This is very important especially for disaster communications. Okay. Again, we go back to the floods. Eh, syempre, di ba, as was described earlier, what will you do if you're at home? How can you actually work if you're at home? Di ba? Di ba, your work does not technically stop when there's no work. Eh. Di ba? Especially if you have international customers. Di ba? They might understand for a while, but as I said, life goes on. You have to continue working. So the solution there is you can work from home, so you can use your DSL facilities, or if you don't have DSL, you can have a tattoo stick. So Globe Tattoo, you can provide internet wherever you go. So in this scenario, this person here connects to the internet, and through a virtual private network connection, you're connected to your applications in the office. So okay. E paano kung you found out that your building where your servers are lost power, there's no commercial power for several days? Eh, syempre, yung UPS mo will not last that long. So your servers will go out eventually. Diba? So paano na? So syempre, this is where disaster recovery comes in. And unfortunately, disaster recovery, depending on how you deploy, it's expensive, especially if you're going to buy your own hardware. So the alternative is you can install in a cloud service. So kasi nga lower cost point, pero you can still get the services. Kasi nga you will not probably use it all the time. So it's part of our cloud solutions. And I will show it how it works. And this infrastructure is housed in our data center, where we really take our data center operations seriously. Just to give you an idea, our Cebu data center wasn't affected at all by the Bohol earthquake or even the typhoon that has passed recently, not a scratch. So just to give you an idea, so this is your facility, di ba? If this goes out, we can set it up such that your customers or your users can still use it via the cloud. Okay? What about email? Eh, di ba email, some people will say, there's I think a discussion, an argument as to what the importance of email. Yung iba sasabihin, hindi masyado importante yan. Pero ako, I believe that email is increasing in importance. So, paano yun? Eh kung yung email ko nasa isang email server. Diba? So there are we offer two ways to address that. Kasi nga, implementing cloud, the nice thing about that is, if cloud is implemented properly, it is inherently resilient. Basta may internet connection ka, you can access your cloud service. So one is Google Apps for business. So who here doesn't have a Gmail or a Hotmail account? Diba?
So there's very little to teach because these are heavy duty, though consumer products. The difference, who wants to, okay, just a question. Might be wondering, what is the difference between Google Apps for Business and the Gmail that I have at home? From a infrastructure perspective, Google Apps for Business uses the same high-grade infrastructure that millions of Google users use worldwide. But it has enterprise-level controls. Yun yung difference nun. Example, if you have a business, you're using Gmail today, individual accounts. Let's say, meron siyang email, may naka-Google Drive siya. What if your colleague, your employee leaves? What happens to your data? It goes with him because it's a personal account. If you have Google Apps for Business, your employee leaves, your data stays with you. He can make a copy, but the data stays with the organization. Yun yung advantage nun. So you can implement controls on that data, which otherwise is not available. But it's still the proven platform that a lot of customers have known for a long time. Alternatively, if you're more comfortable with Microsoft, we also offer Office 365, which is the version of Microsoft for their office productivity services. So it's full and familiar office applications on the cloud. And depending on the subscription, you can have a version also on your desktop. How are we doing so far? I'm down to my last two scenarios. So okay na yung productivity, ba? You have your applications, you have your email, fine. Naku, patay. The disaster happened just before payday. Paano na? Ito what I've learned, You don't mess with people's pay money. Nako. If you want to die quickly, awayin mo sila sa sweldo nila. Nako. Guaranteed yan. You will be dead before the sun comes down. Siyempre, di ba? It is very emotional So kailangan, paano yan? Wala nga nakapasok sa office. Nobody processed the payroll. Paano na yan? Di ba? So again, just like any cloud service, we've also implemented a payroll processing infrastructure on the cloud. We call it Payroll Cloud. So everything's on the cloud, so you don't need to worry about basically generally the thing that you will worry about most of the time will be the timekeeping. Kasi syempre dun yung basis for all of your pay. And as was described by Paulo earlier, we can have exception handling during disasters. For example, pwede during a disaster, instead of computing how much do you really need to pay you, we can just follow the payout of the last pay period. Para lang malabas na yung pera. Pero somebody still needs to process the payroll. And if it's on-premise and you have no way to get there, nobody can process your payroll. Diba? So this is what is called our software as a service solutions. And if you really also want to focus on your core business, we also offer outsourcing services as an option. Finally, but this is a very specific use for a contact center. Kasi nga, di ba, contact centers are largely bound to where they are. Kung there's a flood or an outage, how can you move? Unless you want to you can set up your own site. What if you're talking about like you're only a 10-seat contact center? You cannot afford to set up another facility. So Globe also came up with a service that is specific for these types of situations, and we call it a hosted contact center. So we can provide the call management, call routing platform. All you need to have are the PCs and the agents. And the nice thing about our platform is it can support home agents. So kuwari, nagkaroon ng disaster. Your site is compromised, you cannot go there. We can set up a home office scenario wherein the agents can work from home. They will probably use their own telephone line as the means for them to accept calls. That's how it works. Tapos yun, ano yun, per seat yung setup nito. So you only subscribe to what you need. You don't need to buy the call infrastructure. Although you have to buy the PCs and hire the people. But other than that, which is a typical requirement. Okay. So was my presentation useful with respect? So I just showed you that the technology is available. We're heavily using that, and it's not a bad thing because it has helped our lives. We can do more things, we can do it faster, we can do it easier. But as with any threat to the organization, you have to manage these things, these risks. And there are technology solutions that would help you to recover your operations in times of disaster, whether man-made or natural. Now, to recap, from a communications perspective, it is important, as in communications is important. As a matter of fact, you probably know this, telecommunications is what is called a lifeline service by the government. Ibig sabihin nun, the government expects us to resume operations soonest because when the disaster strikes, people need to know if their loved ones are okay. You need to coordinate rescue work and rehabilitation work. So that's important. So the next presentation by my colleague, Sam Dichoso, he will describe the efforts that Globe has done to ensure that our network continues to provide the services to businesses and even to consumers. So without further ado, I will pass you on to Sam Dichoso. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. My first slide talks about seamless connection. Seamless connection is much needed more in times of distress. Because during disasters, we have our mobile phones. But our mobile phones need to be connected to the network for us to be able to send a message, warn somebody, call a friend, call for help, access the internet, look for information, look for which place is safe to go, or even just post a message in Facebook saying to your friends or loved ones that, hey, there's a flood here in Cebu, but we're okay, don't worry. So what we do in Globe is really to protect our network. For the non-technical people, I describe the network, I compare it to a water pipe. Your information is sent from point A to point B through a water pipe. And your water is your data. The data is the information you send, the message, your access to the internet, your phone call. So if that line gets cut, the pipeline gets cut, your water won't be able to get from the sender to the receiver. So that is why we need to protect our network. That is why you need to have access to a protected network. So that is what we do in Globe. We protect our network. So we have nationwide coverages, but it will not be good if it runs to not a disaster-ready network. So we have our backbone. The backbone connects the Philippines from the north of Luzon to the south of Mindanao. The backbone is if transmission lines are like pipes, these are the biggest pipes of line that Globe has from Luzon to Mindanao. We have what we call NLTN, which connects North Luzon, and connecting Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao we have three different pipes, three different backbones. We have FOBN1, FOBN2, and Telic field. As you can see, these three backbone networks are routed in different locations, so that if there's a problem in FOBN1, you can still call Manila because the pipe in FOBN2 and Telic field is still running. We have a protected network, but still, we improve our network. So, we have this Mindanao resiliency that was recently completed. Let me go back to Jojo's definition of resiliency this morning. He said that resiliency is, there was a catastrophe and you did not do something about it to improve, you're just a survivor. So if you do something because you want to avoid the same mistake you did, or avoid the one that you missed out during the disaster, you are being resilient. So that is what we did for Mindanao Resiliency. So we created alternate pipes within Mindanao, up to Jensan, Iligan, and Ipil, and Osamis. And we added span protection. So what is span protection? The span protection is a protection that has a faster route. Meaning, if your line gets cut, main line gets cut, it will switch to a pipe that has small latency. So the delay of your message, of your call, is insignificant. So we also have FOBN enhancement, which create span protection from Bicol to Visayas network. And also we partnered with DOMSAT. DOMSAT is a satellite provider. What we can do if there are really strong typhoons that uprooted the transmission towers, so the three backbones are cut, what we can do is deploy VSAT service. We'll just install a VSAT hub in your location connected to the connection in Manila, and the connection is revived or restored. Globe also established its own international network. The international network accommodates our services for international voice, so that you can make calls here to the US, here to Singapore, here to Japan, or anywhere, even in Africa. It also accommodates international data, so that your office here can connect to the headquarters in the US or headquarters in Hong Kong. And we have internet services that we paired with Google, Facebook, so that you can access the internet or the World Wide Web. Globe invested in different cable systems for diversity of route in international. So just like what I showed earlier, we connect Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao with three different routes. We connect Globe to international with different cable system. So just last year, we launched this what we call Southeast Asia Japan cable, which links Globe to the international. It connects to Singapore, Thailand, Japan, Hong Kong, and China. It was launched last year with the president because this SJC is the latest cable system to date here in the Philippines. And Globe is the one only offering that. So in a world map scale, this is how our network looks like in international. So we have different submarine cable system. Those are fiber optic cables from the Philippines connecting to our international point of presence. We established the International Point of Presence, or IPOP, to extend our network from the Philippines going to Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, and 2 in the US. So we have different submarine cables so that in case one gets cut, your international traffic, your internet access, you can still do it because we have 4 remaining. So we are up even if we have 4 cable system down. Of course, when it's 5, it's really very, very, very catastrophic. And using these POPs, or point of presence, we connect to our foreign partners. For example, we connect with AT&T in the US, so that if you want to make a call to AT&T subscribers, you can access. Or make a call to Singtel StarHub subscribers, you can do it. We do it with our international point of presence. Through our international point of presence, we also connect with, we also peer with providers, with Google, Facebook, Yahoo. And we diverse it. For example, in Facebook, we have 1 connection in Asia and 1 connection in the US, so that if the US POP goes down, you still can access Facebook. So as you see, there are different submarine cables connecting our international point of presence. And this is important to us to be able to stay connected worldwide. And this is why we are adding redundancy in our POP. By the end of 2014, we'll, like the one in the US, that we have 2 international point of presence, we'll also establish 2 international point of presence in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Japan. And actually, by second half of 2015, we'll be building our 3rd point of presence in the US, in the East Coast. Because right now, the two major data centers in the West Coast of US, Globe is already inside them. We have our own equipment, we monitor it, and we see the status every day. So, also, going to the Philippines, we access the cable landings, the submarine cable system through our cable landing station. It's very far separated from each other. One is in Cagayan. Actually, when you go there in Cagayan and open your radio, you'll be hearing Taiwan radio stations. And another one in South Luzon. So we designed it to be fully diversified with each other so that when something goes wrong with Ballesteros, our cable station in Nasugbu, Batangas will not be affected. And both our cable landing station are BS 25999 certified. What does it mean? It is about being disaster ready. Because we believe that we can think of every scenario that will happen because right now, um, there are things that still surprise us. The natural calamities, we think we already know everything, but there are still things that you do not know that it will happen. So that is why we have disaster recovery plan. So that in cases that something accidentally happened that we didn't prepared for in our network, we'll do something to recover the services as quickly as possible. So that is the certifications of our cable landing stations. And recently, Globe will build another cable landing station far from the other two. Actually, this will be the first cable landing station to be set up in Vismin area. We'll put up our cable landing station in Davao, which has also a unique route going to the US via Guam, Hawaii. So this will further diversify our international connection so that in the Philippines, we have seamless connection to the world and to the internet. This is Sam Dichoso. Our goal in Globe is to create a wonderful world for you, our customers, by building a resilient and diverse network. Thank you. Let me present to you Louis Villanueva.
Maayong hapon sa inyong tanan. Oh, gising bigla. Sorry, so I'm here today, I'm here this afternoon to talk about technology and how technology has actually helped Globe, but more importantly, how technology has enabled us to help others. So I know that you've been listening to a lot of information today, but my presentation is really more, it's more of a story. So Globe as an organization, we are a risk-aware organization. In order to continue serving you, especially during disasters, we have put in redundancies and high availability solutions into the design of our products and services. Why do we do this? Because, well, we're aware of the impact that disasters have on your business. So I wanted to show you some statistics that we got from the Business Continuity Institute. 75% of businesses without business continuity plan fail within 3 years after facing disaster. 40 to 60% of these businesses, those without continuity plans, never recover. And if your company's operations does not resume within 10 days, you are not likely to survive. So given the importance of the service that we provide, we have made sure that our BCM programs are of the highest standards. Our business continuity programs have been ISO certified since 2011. In fact, we're the first Philippine telco to do so. But of course, in November 2008, all our plans were put to the test. As we all know, Yolanda is the strongest typhoon to hit the Philippines in our history. So the strength of Yolanda tested Globe as an organization, but it also challenged our resiliency as a company. For 24 hours from the landfall of Yolanda, we witnessed a technology blackout. Our network base stations were destroyed, and our cell sites crumpled like pieces of paper. So the impact of Yolanda was unprecedented. If you look at the slide, the areas in red are the sites that were down. But we didn't allow ourselves to be overwhelmed. No. We were prepared, and we responded based on our documented plans. CAOs, or cell site on wheels, were positioned in strategic locations in affected areas to restore the network. We also deployed what we call Lego sites. This is actually a Globe innovation. It's a temporary transportable site that allows us to restore signal within 5 days. By comparison, putting up a regular cell site will take at least 30 days. So the result is, we rose to the challenge. We were able to restore vital communications in Tacloban, and this allowed people there to use their mobile phones, and it also ended the city's isolation. Within 30 days, we were able to restore 80% of basic mobile coverage and 60% of wireline services. So those are the ones in green. But one thing that we realized as a company now, that the Yolanda experience made us realize that we needed to achieve a predictable and repeatable response in order to effectively address upcoming calamities. So our key learnings actually focused on 3 main areas: people, process, and resources. For people, we needed to establish a systemized way of taking care not just of our employees, but more importantly, also of their family members as well. We also needed to form emergency teams across groups and geographic locations for easy deployment during disasters. In fact, during Yolanda, most of our recovery teams came from Mindanao and even as far as northern Luzon. For process, we needed a standard response framework to ensure repeatability and predictability of responses. This includes, but not limited to, agreeing on a common set of policies, procedures, strategies, and documentation. And for crisis communication, digital and social media is still the primary channel for information dissemination. So in terms of resources, we needed to figure out how to use alternative power systems. For example, fuel cell backup instead of crude oil for gensets. We also needed service recovery systems, like as I mentioned earlier, cell site on wheels or CAOs, Legos, satellite phones, and VSAT. Ambassador Fainar mentioned earlier today the term of remedio as a unique Filipino trait. What I wanted to talk to you also about is another Filipino trait which we feel is important. Malasakit. Malasakit to us was the main reason why we feel we were able to overcome the devastation of Yolanda. Malasakit for us fueled the rebirth of the enterprise-wide crisis and disaster response program of Globe, known as Bangon Pinoy. Bangon Pinoy encompasses all the various groups in Globe, from HR, network, marketing, corp. And it banks on social and company resources and partners. All Globe brands, from Globe Postpaid, Prepaid, TM, Globe Business, Tattoo. We pitched in to help Yolanda victims within 48 hours after the storm made its landfall. Through Bangon Pinoy, we set up free call stations to allow people to call and update their loved ones. We also deployed free mobile phone charging stations and free internet stations. free calls, free SMS, free Facebook, free Viber, and free Globe Tattoo Internet sticks. All of these Globe products and services were instrumental in reconnecting people with their families. We streamlined our voluntary efforts from within the company with the aid of our partners. We set up what we call Bangon Pinoy Camp. This camp provided food, water, lodging, transportation, medical assistance, and even solar lamps. The thing about Bangon Pinoy is it also paved the way for an even larger opportunity for nation building. Charmaine touched on this earlier. We launched Project Wonderful. Project Wonderful is a holistic approach to enrich Globe as a global, customer-centric brand. It is our initiative to achieving a wonderful Philippines with the following pillars: nation building, brand building, and culture building. So Project Wonderful enables various Globe brands to provide shelter to the homeless, bring education to the children, and generate livelihood opportunities for the jobless. All these were done with the aid of volunteer employees whose sole wish was to bring the provinces of Palawan, Panay Island, North Cebu, Bohol, Leyte, and Samar back on their feet and do their part in creating a wonderful Philippines. We overcame Yolanda because Malasakit lives within the Globe way. It's in our DNA. The foundation of the company's vision of having the happiest customers, employees, and shareholders. These are our core values as a company. And together, we shall help rebuild the wonderful Philippines.
Needed most. On November 8, 2013, Typhoon Yolanda devastated eastern Visayas. In the wake of the disaster, many subscribers and partners took part in Bangon Pinoy, Globe's response to nation building. For that important call or text to let their loved ones know they are safe, Globe immediately reconnected the people of Samar and Leyte to the rest of the country. The products and services of Globe became instruments to bridge families and friends from the Visayas to the rest of the Philippines and the world. As need for aid grew, Globe, together with its employees, subscribers, partners, and volunteers, went through all possible means to reach out to those in need. But this does not end at relief. With the help pouring out of the generosity of our subscribers, the Bangon Pinoy Camp was established in Giwan, Leyte as a testimony to the long-standing program Globe established to rebuild the provinces affected by Typhoon Yolanda. Through the downpour of love from our loyal customers, Globe is also committed to help the people of Eastern Visayas get back on their feet and stay connected to their loved ones. To our loyal customers and subscribers, we send our heartfelt thank you for your kindness and generosity. You have changed the fate of thousands of our fellow countrymen by helping us raise pledges and donations worth over 50 million pesos to uplift the unwavering Filipino spirit. Now your continued volunteerism can help recovery efforts in Eastern Visayas. By sharing your time, treasure, and talent, you can help build and repair homes, send kids back to school, and allow communications technology to bring a brighter future to these communities. In doing your part, you can help our brothers and sisters rise again. Thank you for helping us create a wonderful Philippines.
I'd also like to take this opportunity to introduce a new advocacy that we have. We call it Project One Phone. Project One Phone is the biggest and most ambitious mobile recycling program being launched in the Philippines today. We wanted to do it to combat the dumping of e-waste and to promote social and environmental practices. So The project itself is designed to create awareness on the proper e-waste disposal and to promote sustainability. We'll play the video, please.
This is e-waste. It is any old, end-of-life, or discarded electronic device that can harm the environment. And in today's digital age, it's becoming a huge concern. Globally, we've disposed almost 50 million metric tons of e-waste every year. That's more than 2 million truck containers. And 80% will end up in landfills and release toxins into the air. This is why we need to recycle, so we can save our Earth and make a difference. This is why Globe is starting Project One Phone. One phone from every one person now becomes one good deed. Because by donating one old phone for recycling, not only are we reducing e-waste, but we are also helping build new schools for the children of Baclaran. Here's how. Donate one old or non-working mobile phone, MP3 player, charger, or tablet, and drop these off at participating Globe stores. Globe will send these donations to TESAM Philippines, an e-waste facility that recycles electronics into reusable byproducts. Every part of your one phone is turned into something new and useful. The LCD parts are reused to make new panels. Old batteries are turned into new ones. Even the casings and keypads are made into new plastic or metal products. So, how do our old phones turn into new schools? 100% of the proceeds from recycling all the donated e-wastes will be used for the construction of new schools in Aklan. This is part of the continuing effort of Globe to rebuild the nation after Typhoon Yolanda, and our commitment to sustainability. Give your old phone its one last wonderful. This is Project One Phone, a call for good. To know more about how to help, visit www.globe.com.ph/projectonephone.
So that wraps up our presentation for today. Thank you for your time.
We would like to ask the audience if you have questions for our speakers. On the One Phone program, you can actually have your old phones recycled. And if the old numbers of your ex-girlfriends or boyfriends are still in the phone, they can be recycled. Questions to our speakers? How far will technology serve you? So there was the thing about the pipe, was it in Vietnam? That actually got severed. So there was a question on the impact to the internet, and we've read that it would have taken 25 days. Did that really affect Globe? Because I never noticed, any downtime. Sir?
The problem in Vietnam. Actually, right now it's still there. The submarine cable is still cut. If you see in the diagram, we have 5 cable system going to Singapore. So right now we only have 4. So, but you can notice the traffic because all of our international traffic going to Singapore went to the other 4 submarine cable system. So the protection is seamless. You didn't notice it, but it happened 2 Saturdays ago. And still, the submarine cable is still down for repair for next week, until next week. So that's how we protect our international cable system. We set up protection, cable routes, different pipes, different routes, undersea, to be able to provide you seamless connectivity.
Okay, thank you. Any more question? One more question before we ask our speakers to be on stage and be acknowledged. I think we're good. Okay. And once again, a round of applause, please, to our speakers, Sir Gilbert Pusho, Sir Sam, and of course, Sir Louis. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And again, thank you also to our audience. You are very attentive. By the way, on the evaluation form, it's quite important for you to fill up items number 5 to 13. It's quite important as well for Globe to determine and anticipate needs, especially when it comes to business continuity planning. So please don't forget to fill in items 5 to 13. Okay, so if you've noticed, there's quite a number of bags, paper bags at the back. Those are for raffles. So I think there are more bags than there are attendees in the room right now. So yeah, I could probably just do the roll call and everybody gets something. Let's see. Almost 1 year now, Yolanda, and you've heard the stories, you've read a lot of, survival stories, but there are still so many organizations from those areas badly affected by Yolanda, which, up to this time, have not yet recovered. But here's one exception, probably one of the very few exceptions, and it's interesting to note how they made it in a record time of, he will tell you. Our next speaker is currently the AVP for IT at Pasar, Leyte. His work covers, among others, IT service management, service desk, business continuity, IT governance, project management, service operation, service delivery, business intelligence, information security and application development. And prior to joining Pasar, he was IT head, global service manager, and APAC ITS manager in such companies as Lawson Software, SPI Technologies, and Regis. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Mark Yap.
Thank you for that very warm introduction. First of all, I would like to thank Globe for inviting me on this forum. This, I must say, is one of the most effective way to convey the importance of business continuity and disaster recovery planning. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to everyone. I would like to personally start by introducing myself. I'm Mark Yap, and I work for Philippine Associated Smelting and Refining Corporation, or what is commonly known as PASAR. We have been in the mining industry for almost 31 years now, and our core product is copper. Our plant is stationed in Isabel, Leyte, and we're occupying 80 hectares out of the 200 hectares of the Leyte Industrial Development Estate. Okay. I was invited here to talk about business continuity, IT business continuity, particularly our experience on our recovery efforts during the Yolanda typhoon, because we were heavily damaged by the calamity and we stopped operation during that time. And how we leverage the technology today to help us recover from the calamity, while at the same time helping the entire community get back on its feet and reuniting family employees to their families and to their loved ones, especially during the in the region. As what the host earlier mentioned, before joining PASAR, I've been part of several organizations in the past, mostly multinational companies and BPO sectors. And I must say that business continuity for most BPO sectors are services that they offer to client and are revenue generating service. I have been responsible for drafting business continuity and disaster recovery plans for some of from the previous companies that I've been with, and that's the main reason why I was exposed to several business continuity planning and disaster recovery initiatives in the past. The calamity that hit us last November 8, 2013 was one of the strongest tropical cyclone ever recorded in the history of the Philippines. It has a sustained winds of 315 kilometers per hour, killing almost 6,500 on its way, as officially recorded. and devastated the entire region with an approximate property loss of $2.1 billion. Pasar is located in Isabel Leyte, 50 kilometers away from Ormoc, facing west, which incidentally shielded us from the storm surge coming from the east. However, the town was not spared from the strong winds of the typhoon. It lifted all the roofings, anything that gets on its way, and then took out almost the entire region during that time. This forced us to shut down our plant operation during the typhoon and take over for safety. I, together with the SPP of HR and a couple of employees in the plant, were in the admin building during that time. And we took it upon ourselves to safeguard the entire office, considering the forecast wind of Yolanda. But we never knew what is coming. We all took refuge inside our data center because the wind was so strong that it took out all of the roofing, including the trusses, blown off the glass windows and glass doors. We stayed in the data center until the storm has passed. And after 8 hours of taking cover, the strong winds and heavy rains is finally over and left a significant damage to Pasar. Immediately after the typhoon, being one of Pasar's senior management team, we immediately assessed the situation and ensured safety of all employees on site. Safety teams were deployed to rescue employees trapped and injured inside the plant for immediate medical attention. We did some rounds within the community to visit and assess the situation and also provide assistance and medical attention to whoever needs it. We realized that same day the aftermath brought about by the calamity, and as it critically damaged all plant structures, blown off almost all of the roofings in the building. And at that time, there were no communication, there were no mobile reception, all telephone lines were destroyed, and there were no means of communication in the entire region. All roads going to Ormoc were blocked by debris and were not possible for at least 1 week. These are the photos taken after the typhoon or the calamity hit Leyte, and this is the mass grave that were created for all the people that died during the storm. This is actually a picture or an image of our office. This is where we used to stay before. So as you can see, all roofings were taken out, all the windows were blown off, and there's really nothing there that you can use afterwards. This is actually an image inside the plant. So it looks like a war zone, I must say, because of the situation after the typhoon. This is the hotel inside the plant. This is where I used to stay before, and outside the admin building parking. On an IT perspective, everyone thought that we lost everything already. Our data center had water leaking all over the place because the building roofing was blown off, which caused flooding inside the facility. We needed to manually remove all the server disks on each of the critical servers to preserve our data and our ERP system, which is very critical and crucial to our operations in the plant because it has all the inventory and all the information needed for our finance and marketing supply chain to operate. We're very much dependent on our ERP system as an organization. Together with the head of finance and a few critical support groups personnel, we flew 2 days after the storm. So we took the charter going to Cebu because there were no transportation going anywhere. We took the charter going to Cebu, and from Cebu, we took the commercial flight from Cebu to Manila. And then we were able to recover our ERP system and user data in Makati office, which actually played a big role on our recovery efforts because all of our systems, communication, unified communication, and then contacts were already restored during that time. And then we can process already payments and all of those things. All of our servers and networking devices in the plant were all considered wet working devices and not reliable anymore because these devices were not meant to withstand this kind of condition for an extended period of time. In the next couple of days, we consolidated all of our machines, servers, networking equipment to assess and salvage everything that we can use to partially restore communication in the plant and to also resume all non-plant production activities. We shipped all of our servers and equipment to Makati. That's how we recovered during that time, because all of our data is consolidated in the plant. And as you can see, the office and the data center and everything in the plant was heavily damaged. So we needed to manually fly all of those servers, all of those disks to Makati, to our Makati office in order to operate again. Overall, we were fortunate and successful in our objective to restore all critical IT services and was able to resume operation in Makati. The finance department and some supply chain folks went to Makati to resume their activity, and IT did a lot of recovery efforts and supporting users in the time of recovery. This somewhat addresses the immediate and compliance requirements of the plant. As you may know, we're in the mining industry, and we need to comply to some regulatory and statutory requirements, especially for the environment. So we needed all of our systems to be back up to get all of those information to be able to provide those to the government. During the recovery effort, we partnered with Globe for our restoration efforts, not only for Pasar, but also to help the entire community. We have provided Globe several times with fuel in Leyte to power up their generators in the region, also increase their efficiency for logistics and mobilization, while at the same time restoring their mobile and data capability within the area and then later on in the entire region. It actually helped in reuniting people outside of the province with their loved ones that were affected by the typhoon. It also opened up efficient and accurate delivery of information, not only in the Philippines, but all over the world. Local and international organizations started to come in and started to help everyone in the entire region. For Pasar, our communications link from Makati to Leyte was restored through a microwave radio that created a lot of opportunity for IT. We started to rebuild our infrastructure and use the latest Microsoft technology today to rebuild our infrastructure from scratch. We partnered with several hardware providers in Manila and several vendors to deliver equipment on an expedited time frame. As we all know, if you're in the IT industry, every time you need something, it would require you 30 to 45 days delivery. And that is something that you cannot have in times of recovery. We also partnered with Microsoft for assistance in terms of rebuilding our system, because we came from a very old, 10 years older technology version. Then we are now running the most latest Microsoft product today. Since all of our telephone lines were just restored probably 2 months ago, there were no landline in the area. We were able to leverage on our Manila telephone lines by having all voice traffic transmitted across our pipe, which was provided by Globe from a point-to-point perspective. Supply chain, our finance already started working in the plant, and that already speed up the entire recovery because they're already on site. And things are getting better and better as we progress with our recovery efforts. All of our internet traffic is going through our point-to-point connection from Leyte to Makati and going out through our internet in Makati. The same concept is now being used for high availability and resiliency of our system. And with this in place, almost all circuits and infrastructure for us are now scalable and highly. With all of this experience behind us now, we look back and realize that there were a lot of things which could have been done better if we have done things differently before the typhoon. We have business continuity plans and disaster recovery plans, but you cannot predict all of those things that's going to happen. But when a calamity hits you, not all things goes as planned. And having a positive attitude, good, fast decision-making, focus, determination would greatly impact the entire recovery strategy. During our recovery, I would like to highlight three major factors that steered our recovery initiative. First is our professional network in the industry. On a disaster recovery mode, as an IT professional, we must be able to leverage on our providers and professional contacts to provide us with our requirements in order for us to recover with the least turnaround time possible. Knowing the right people that can help you during this time of recovery will help you tremendously on your software, hardware, and solution sourcing. Maintaining an updated contact list, escalation matrix, and a service level agreement with your third-party providers on your business continuity plan is really a must and would come at hand when the time that you need to recover from a calamity. Second is our resource preparedness. So people, our employees are the most valuable asset of the company, and our recent recovery effort just proves that. All PASAR employees did a tremendous job in getting the plant back up and running. Personal sacrifices were made in order to recover from and proceed with the plant restart. Everyone was very passionate to get back up, and even if their own properties were still damaged and still being repaired. We helped PASAR get back up, and PASAR helped us rebuild our houses, providing our basic necessity, provided cash assistance at the times of desperation. This kind of acts curved the PASAR culture all over the years, and people are proud to be part of PASAR. However, perseverance and positive attitude of our leaders and employees also requires tools and skills in order to efficiently get back up from a disaster. These are things that we as leaders should consider and invest proactively in order to prepare our people from unfortunate circumstances, providing value with an acceptable implementation cost against business benefit. On an IT perspective, we witness the importance of our people being up to date and trained with the most recent technology in the industry today to be able to have more options and leverage on the latest technology. During our IT disaster recovery initiatives, with the help of our professional network, we were able to also take advantage of new technology to expedite the recovery of our systems temporarily and also for long term. We've extended our communication lines from Manila to Leyte and also created a resilient network and a system infrastructure that minimizes the planned and unplanned outages and take down the minimum our recovery time objective. After the typhoon, work needed to recover from a disaster was so huge that we lost a few people along the way due to attrition. All IT folks were required to go the extra mile and work extended hours. I remember we were asking those employees to help us recover by working from Monday to Saturday every day. And these actions were actually required in order for us to prevent further damage to our equipment. As you can see earlier, we are smelting copper in our plant. Are mostly equipments that could rust anytime if not taken care of. This direction created threats for the organization and particularly to the team. So we as leaders will play a big role in converting those threats into opportunities and be able to inspire and motivate our people in the worst conditions and circumstances. Before the storm, we were running technologies that are 10 years old at least. But we have a pipeline of projects that we've started already and plan to upgrade in the next 3 years. But since our equipment and data center were damaged by the typhoon, we took that as a window of opportunity to migrate our systems to the latest technology today. And at the same time, provide services in the plant that were not available before. This now represents the third factor, which is the technology readiness. This opened up a lot of opportunity for PASAR in terms of technology updates, training, and most importantly, creating a legacy in PASAR for information technology. These systems and infrastructure that we have today was a product of hardships when we were trying to recover our systems, working countless hours and extended hours, working away from our family to recover our systems, even if we ourselves have not yet personally recovered from the incident. It would have been much efficient and we would have spent less time in the data and systems recovery if PASAR was fully prepared to resume operation offsite on a business continuity and disaster recovery perspective. But then again, we were fortunate enough that we were able to restore our critical services with the help of our partners, and one of which is really the globe that provided the connectivity for our Makati side for remote connection. That is the most crucial part of the story, actually. So before I end my talk today, I would like to go back because the previous Globe gentlemen that talked about business continuity, they highlighted security during their presentation, which is actually created an idea for me when I was watching their presentation. Yeah, for most organizations, people don't really invest too much time on business continuity. They don't spend much time in practicing and implementing and testing business continuity plans. But and the statistics earlier showed that 70% of the companies that weren't able to recover after a calamity never restarted again because of the loss that they had during a calamity. So I would like to give an analogy and ask this question to everyone. Just imagine yourself inside a vehicle or a car, and then a braking system was created for what function? To make you stop, right? That's basically what the braking system does. But if you're going to think about it on another way, and think that the vehicle is the company and you're inside, would you go inside if the vehicle doesn't have a braking mechanism? No, right? Because you know what will happen. And that is basically, translate to the braking system being the business continuity and the security of the organization. It was created actually not to make you stop, but rather to make you go faster, knowing that you can stop and then continue your travel. So, and I hope that that changed some perspective on some of us today. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. We could probably accommodate one question from the audience for Mr. Mark Yap. If you have any question. Sir Mark, the recovery time in total that you were able to get back?
The partial recovery, it took us 3 days to recover our critical systems.
3 days?
Yes, we were very fortunate that we were able to restore all of our critical systems in Makati.
Despite all of those damaged photos there?
Yes. So we took all of our, I would say, hard disk to our Makati office, which has a complete replica of our critical system. And we were fortunate that we were already starting to plan for BCP and disaster recovery during that time. And we were able to address that kind of situation. So we were able to recover that system, but communication is not yet available for the entire region, which we leverage on Globe by providing fuel for their cell sites, for their mobility or vehicles, and at the same time prioritizing the entire community in Isabel Leyte. And that gave us the window to connect to our Makati resources in order for us to continue operation again and keep the communications available to the company.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Once again, a round of applause, please, for Mr. Mark Yap. And to present our token of appreciation, sir, we have Pia. Thank you so much. Thank you. And the real story of resilience, as we mentioned earlier, if after the typhoon you were just back to where you were before, that's not resilience, it's just being a survivor. But that's a story of resilience. They became much, much better after a disastrous event like that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down to our final speaker for the day. And this is going to be the third time that I'll be listening to this gentleman, and I'm every single time it's always, you know, it's a very meaningful journey whenever you listen to him. We are very honored that we have him with us. He is currently the Director General of the Philippine Information Agency, and he's a purpose-driven leader with a natural gift at inspiring excellence in others. His notable achievements include his being part of the regional team that crafted both the organizational structure and formation program of the Youth for Christ. As a veteran leader, veteran actually can be assigned to young people now. He's a leader in disaster response. He is also credited for spearheading relief operations, organizing post-calamity, psychosocial debriefing, and managing sustainability from start until completion, the rebuilding of communities through Gawad Kalinga housing projects. As Undersecretary at the Presidential Communications Operations Office, he is also tasked to head the Office for Special Concerns and is a moving force behind Pilipinas Natin. He is also a faculty advisor for Development Academy of the Philippines Public Management Development Program. As operations head of Gawad Kalinga from 2003 to 2010, he has been a close collaborator. Of course, probably know Mr. Tony Miloto, whom he considers as a mentor and a second father. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director General Jose Marie Oquiniena.
Mayong hapon sa inyong tanan. And ninenervyos lang ako ng konti kasi first time ako mag-Amerikana. And I'd like to congratulate the organizer for discovering that picture. That's not me. Baka naka-photoshop lang yan. Kanina pinost ulit yan sa Facebook ko. At may nag-comment, sabi ng isa, Kuya, okay ka pala naka-Amerikana eh. Sana lagi kang ganun yung suot ko daw. Sabi ko, wag muna, buhay pa naman ako eh. So, paminsan-minsan. Again, good afternoon and thank you for having this discussion. Because we've always heard this discussion on climate change, new normal, etc., etc. In fact, the other day I was in Pamantasan ng lungsod ng Muntinlupa. We had a gym full of people. And we were talking about climate change. I was with Commissioner Yeb Sanyo of the Climate Change Commission. And in the table, they were discussing about the science of things, climate change. And I remember talking to one person of age na doctorate in climate change and all. Sabi niya sa akin, you know, Mary, I've stopped attending climate change conferences. Sabi ko, ba't naman, Doc? Sabi niya, because there's enough science to know what's wrong. There's also enough knowledge to know what to do. But nobody exerts effort or come together to talk about how do you raise the successor generation to do the mitigation, to bridge the learning to the solution. No? And that's what I told the commissioner the other day. And I said, if this is the new normal, why are we not discussing climate change in terms of leadership? Why do we always discuss climate change in terms of science, of policy, no, and strategy, but not in terms of leadership? Anya, what do you mean? And I said, if this is the new normal, so what should be the new normal kind of leader that moving forward. This cannot be done, and the output of this cannot just be in terms of policy. It has to go into the core of a person, into the core of the leaders that leads your institution. I remember I had this discussion with my 5-year-old daughter. Her name is Micah. No? One time, my daughter Micah asked for her mom's iPad. She said, "Mom, can I borrow your iPad?" And I said, "Micah, your mom is using it. Why don't you use Papa's tablet?" She said, "No, Papa, iPad is better." No, she's 5 years old. I said, "No, Micah, tablet is better." I mean, "No, Papa, iPad is better." Nainis na ako. And sabi ko, "No, Micah, tablet is better." And then she rolled her eyes and did this and said, "Ay, awkward." Okay? And I found it cute because she's still 5 years old. Pag high school na yun or college, hindi siya cute for a dad to be told that way, no? And I realized in that conversation, wow, I just had an argument with my 5-year-old daughter, which one is better, iPad or tablet? No? Is this the new normal thing in the future? Okay? If this is starting to be the trend, because hindi ma-stop yung trend, so dapat pinag-uusapan na rin natin, anong klaseng leader ang kailangan sa future? Hindi puro study lang, but we need to start developing the kind of person that will lead us not only in mitigating, in surviving, but to make sure that we live up to the purpose natin. I recently found out that yung isang kahoy daw can take in 30 to 40 tons of pollutants or carbon dioxide per year, one tree. One person needs 30 to 40 trees to process the waste that we do per year. Ibig sabihin, bawat isa dito sa atin, we should have 30 trees to make sure na ma-process all the waste that we emit to Mother Earth. No? So first question of the day, do you have 30 trees na inaalagaan? Okay? Now, kung wala, don't feel bad. I'm not here to make you feel guilty. Maybe you can start planting now. Because we are just consuming and not replenishing. Maybe we should start to replenish also. When I learned that in a discussion, I said, wow, ganun pala yun. And then somebody said, that's why we need to keep on teaching in the schools. A very passionate friend. We need to keep on teaching in the school the 3 R's. You know the 3 R's? Reuse, reduce, recycle. And sabi ko, wow, galing. Sabi ko, let's talk about reduce. And sabi ko sa kanya, kasi ano siya eh, he works for a accounting firm, and he is a tax consultant in that accounting firm. And he said, what if we will make the person pay double pag hindi niya maubos yung in-order niyang pagkain? Sabi niya, ano, hindi pwede yun. Bakit? Kasi karapatan niya yun, binayaran niya yun. Bakit? Kung lahat tayo hindi naubos yung pagkain, ibig sabihin malaking demand. Pag malaki ang demand, malaking production. We all know that the biggest destroyer of the ozone layer are the cows, not the cars. Alam niyo yun, yung baka. That's why the whole of the ozone layer started in the New Zealand, Australia area because there are a lot of cows there. This is not a joke, this is scientific. Mukha lang, hindi ako mukhang scientist, pero totoo to. Nabasa ko din naman to sa YouTube. Okay? Now, No, I'm not here to promote vegetarian lifestyle because I am not. No. All I'm simply saying is that when we discuss like reuse, reduce, baka pwedeng magdagdag tayo ng mga measures or policy that makes it difficult for us to overconsume. No? To overconsume. Don't worry, I'll go to the topic later. Siguro nag-wonder, saan siya papunta? I'm not a scientist, I'm not trying to lecture. Because when we ready our team, when we ready ourselves and people, we have to understand that this is not just a matter of strategy for survival or sustainability. We have to understand that, yes, we have to understand that this is a matter not only survival for the business, but this is to make sure that life goes on. No? Sometimes my wishes are very simple now for my children. I hope they fall from the tree. Because when they do, it means there's still trees. There was a question on the floor in one of my forum for climate change. Ang daming problema sa mundo, sa Pilipinas, corruption, basura, etc., etc. Bakit natin unahin ang climate change? Dapat ba i-prioritize siya? Sabi ng estudyante. Sabi ko, ang sagot ko sa kanya, if I will make you choose between a life with problem and a life without problem, which one do you like? Sabi niya, a life without problem. Sabi ko, it means you're dead. Diba? Okay? That's why we need to mitigate climate change effect so we can have a life with problem. Because a life with problem means that we are still alive. So in terms of prioritization, there is a need to prioritize and ready ourselves for the continuity of life. My wife will give birth on November 10 to a baby boy. When she told me she was pregnant late February, early March yata yun, I just came from Tacloban. I stayed there for more than 1 month. I was there when Yolanda happened. And I did not go home for like more than a month. And then, umuwi ako mga January na. Then, March, sinabi niya buntis siya. Then, she looked at me and said, "Uy, buntis ako." Kasi gusto niyang magka-baby na lalaki. When she said that, I just looked at her and said, "Wow, galing." Sabi niya, "Are you not excited?" Sabi ko, "Of course I am. I want to have many, many kids. But you have to understand, I just came from Tacloban. To see the devastation, no? To see all the dead bodies lying all over, it makes you scared to bring another life into this earth. It makes you question, is it right to bring another life into this earth? But I am not rejecting the fact that babies are a blessing to the family. It just makes you think twice when you see the devastation. Kaya my goal now is, how can I equip my children fast enough so that when the challenge comes at our doorstep, they know how to survive? One of those is that I've enrolled my kids in a swimming school regularly. Ngayon, magagaling na lumangoy. Kasi I don't know how to swim. I don't know how to swim. Kaya takot din ako magsakay ng aeroplano ngayon. Kasi I don't know also how to fly. Ganun na kasimple yun. Maliit pa yung anak ko. Sabi ko, pag nagbarko ako, I don't know how to swim. Pag nag-aeroplano ako, I don't know how to fly. So, parang natatakot ka na, di ba? Baka it's that time. No? I'll share with you 3 things, no? And how do we prepare, the perspective in preparing ourselves and our team. Recently, I went to Legazpi for a summit on climate change. And as I was getting ready, my daughter, Pia, my eldest, she's 8 years old, she asked me, "Papa, where are you going?" I said, oh, I'm going to Legazpi. You know, Legazpi is where Mama Mayo lives. And I'm going to tell people there, to make it simple, I'm going to tell people not to throw their garbage everywhere and not to cut the trees. You know what my daughter said? She looked at me and said, what? They don't know that? No? See, for her, it should be second nature to us not to throw garbage everywhere. It should be second nature for us to take care of the trees that gives us life. That's her expectation. Now question, are we still doing what is natural to us? Because we don't even have sometimes to discuss how do we ready ourselves. It should be part of our instinct to make sure there should be no loss of life. Because we should be appreciating life. What is normal to us? Maybe we should start doing what is normal to us. That when we ready our organization, we don't just ready them where to run in case there is earthquake, or what to do in case we respond to a disaster, or how to distribute relief to others. Those are important. A deliberate effort, to create a culture within our organization, a culture, to develop a culture of purpose, a purpose beyond what the company expects or what others expect of your company. For example, I mentioned this in Radisson, the last PMAP. The 10-9, I call it the 10-9 principle of profit. Sabi ko, what's the difference between earning 10 million and